Welcome back to today's Crystal's Light, and I'm Crystal. And here we are shining wisdom and advice for others. And today's guest is someone I have known my entire life. This is my father, Lowell, and I feel like he has a lot of information to share. So, Dad, what I would say is that I feel like as I have gotten older, that you have changed with your you have just changed. And I guess that's how we are in life as a whole. We all have changed. Do you think there was anything in particular, or do you think you have changed for one? And for two, do you think there was any one thing in particular that, made you change if you feel like you have changed?
Well, to answer that question, the simple answer is yes, yes, I have changed. Um, it's life. Life causes you to change. You have plans, you set goals, and then sometimes the goal happens, sometimes it don't, which means you've got to change your plan, you got to change your goal. Um, I'm kind of one of those people that believes that in doing the right thing, but I don't always do the right thing. So it's trial and error. Some things you do and they work out and they're good. Some things you do and they don't. But yes, to answer your question, yes, I have changed. I have seen changes in me, and I'm still open to change. And that's the key. I think you have to be open to change because you can't say I'm right 100% of the time and be right 100% of the time.
Do you feel like you've always had that mindset of being open to change?
No, I know I haven't. When I was younger, I'm from the old school, so my parent raised me in a certain way that what parents say, that's the law and that goes, and you don't question it. And although I try to get a little bit away from that, I was still in that mindset. So it wasn't, probably till you became an adult that my mindset actually changed because when you were being raised, hey, it was what I say and that was it. It ain't what you think about it or let's talk about it or let's compromise. No, I'm the parent. This is how it is.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because I feel like that's when I had a not the biggest shift, but a big shift is when my daughter became an adult, is when I feel like I shifted a lot as well. So I guess, you continuously changing and you're constantly aware of things and in life, especially when you're raising kids. But it's something that happens when your child becomes an adult or is seen as an adult that kind of forces you to change again in life, and you don't know it, and you're not gonna fully see it until you get to that stage. At least that's how I
Exactly.
see it. Once
I
you get
agree 100%. I agree with you on that.
yeah. Okay. And so I have another question for you. So I feel like you're someone I can go to and I can get really good advice from. You try to like give me different aspects of different things. So do you feel like that what is like a piece of good advice that someone has given you that you feel like that you just remember, and you was like, yeah, that's like a good one, I'm always gonna remember that?
Well, I guess there are two or three things, I guess, if you think about it. One thing is that I have learned is that as a person, you can live one of two ways. You're going to live off of love, or you can live off of hate. And don't let anybody tell you you can't live off of hate because you can. And don't you can live off of love, and that's a good feeling. But when you're living off of hate, you're living, but it's eating you up on the inside. So you have a choice, and that's one of the I guess one of the pieces of advice that a person once given me, and I learned that lesson. You have a choice, and I tell everybody when you realize you have that choice, choose love because hate will just eat you up inside, and you miserable. But the person you hate probably may not even know you hate them, and they living their best life. So don't lose your sanity because of something that happened with someone else. Love is a whole different creature. It allows you to live and experience other things in life. Um, Another thing that I heard, but I think I'd already learned it, but I was at a friend of mine's family member funeral, and the preacher got up and says, when a person dies, there's three basic things you have to do. And that is, number one, you're going to moan. mourn. So some people mourn a little while, some people mourn for a long time. It just depends on your relationship with that person. If that person, while they were alive, you did all you could do, and you did everything you wanted to do or tried to do, which is not everything you could have done. No matter what you do, it's never everything you could have done. Then you're a lot more at ease, and sometimes the grieving is not as long. But just because one person grieve a short time and another person grieve a long time, that don't mean they had a bad relationship. It just means, it just takes some people longer time to get over grief. The other thing he said was when a person dies, the second thing you have to do is forgive. In other words, you have to forgive yourself because, I thought about, when my mother died, I love my mother. I was prepared for her death because she was very sick. And during that grieving stage, it went to my mind. I thought about things that, I had done in my mind more than any other family member, but I could have did more. So it was bothering me that I didn't do everything that I could have done, everything I should have done, but I felt like I was comfortable because I knew I had done more in my mind than the other people had done. So you have to forgive. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive the person that has passed away because maybe they've said something to you or did something to you. So there are three things. Like I said, the first one is to mourn, to moan. The second one is to forgive yourself as well as forgive that person. And the third thing is you got to live. You got to live your life. If that person was alive, that person would tell you, hey, I'm gone. I'm at peace or I'm at whatever. It's time for you to live your life because there's nothing I can say or do is going to change anything that's ahead of you. So those are three things that, like I said, I sort of learned that prior to hearing it, but once I heard it, it made so much sense that I try to keep that in the back of my mind so that if a person asks for a piece of wisdom, that's one of the things I like to tell them, especially when it pertains to death, because it was so true for me, and I believe it's to be so true for so many other people.
Right. I 100% agree with it. Um, and while you were going through that process, and that person gave you that good advice, do you feel like you had a moment where you just came to terms with yourself and said, okay, yeah, I feel like I could have done more or I could have done that? Do you feel like it was a slow, like slowly you were able to, like, live life, or do you feel like it was kind of like, okay, I've mourned, now it's time for me to do things that she would want me to do and to keep going?
Well, it's going to always be a slow process because if you mourn the death of someone, if you love somebody and they're gone, no matter how long it is, you're still gonna think about them. You're still gonna miss them. You're still gonna it's still gonna come back from time to time. So it was a gradual thing as far as accepting the fact that hey, I know I did a lot, but I still could have did more. But it didn't bother it. The more I lived, the less it bothered me because I knew I had done a lot. So right now I'm in a very good place because even though if I could turn the hands back, I would do more, but I know I can't. So I have accepted that I did do at the time all that I felt was necessary or that I really had to, that needed to be done.
Yep. And the reason I'm asking is because I feel like sometimes people don't talk enough about grief and how they handle it. And I feel like it could sometimes help others, when they are going through it. Some things I sometimes see, and I think it's just in general, is that people try to judge others or tell others how it should look or what it should look like. When I think one of the first things you said is that it's gonna look different for everybody. Sometimes, people take different routes to get to different points, but I think it's more of like just handling and knowing what works best for you, and knowing that how you handle it is gonna be different than how someone else will handle
That's right.
it. Okay, and you said something earlier. So the first piece of advice that you gave was about living with love or living with hate. And I wanted to go into that a little more because, like, to make it more real, I think you gave a brief example, but so when you say living with hate, is that kind of like where someone has done you wrong and then you're still thinking about it and you said that person has moved on with life? Oh, let's say, for example, like someone has cheated on someone in a relationship, right? And so the person that got cheated on, they are, sitting around sad and mad and trying to figure out how to make that other person life miserable. But the person that did the cheating, we're not talking about what's right and what's wrong. That's not the point of this example. The point is the person that did the cheating they have a new, person that they're with, and they are living life and they're living good. But the person who was cheated on is still living in that hate section of it. And again, this is not about right or wrong. This is more about self and wisdom of self. So how do you think, what do you think will help that person that is living in that, oh, I hate you, I hate you, you hurt me aspect? What do you think will help that person move on?
Well, I think the number one thing, and the reason I said love or hate is because I have did that. I have lived with that hate, and I felt it eating me up on the inside. And when I finally learned how to let that hate go and to live off of love, I couldn't believe the difference in how it made my body and mind feel. Because when you're living on hate, you don't think about anything else. It just have you like that adrenaline. You're going, and it takes. It's not. I don't know of a pill or anything you can take. It just takes for the person to come to the realization that, hey, I got a choice. I can hate you or not, but you are. If I look at you and I see you having a good time, and I'm sitting here thinking about how I can make your life miserable, and I'm not really able to make your life miserable because you over there having a good time, then who's the person that's really being destroyed? I am. So it's not until the person get to that point, and I don't know what it takes to get a person to that point, but once you get to that point, that you can step back and look at yourself and the person that you have that hate for, that you will be able to move forward. And once you are able to do that, and like I say, it's not a matter of saying, well, okay, I forgive you for that. I don't forgot about this. It ain't gonna happen. I'm still thinking about it, but I'm not gonna let it ruin. I'm not gonna let it be the center of my thoughts when I see you. If I see you, I see you. We talk, we do whatever, whatever that causes that hate. I will make sure that we never get into that position again. But you've got to move on.
Yep, I 100% agree. It's more mental, and you
Yeah.
do get a type of a high, like you said, adrenaline. It will like force you to, I ain't gonna say force you, you will be energetic enough to do certain things to have motivation, but it's a different type of motivation, like what you were saying. And you don't want to be driven by that type of motivation, because although it is like allowing you to move forward, but you're moving forward with this heavy, deep type of energy that is not going to be as like freeing as it was if it was moving from a love aspect. So that's how a person would feel in a hate aspect, and that's how they would be able to get past it. They would have to make a mental choice, like what you said. So what about living in like the love aspect? Like, when you change and over to that love aspect, like, did what type of difference did you feel, or did you notice, or was there a difference that you noticed?
Oh yeah, that's a big difference. I mean, you feel the load, you feel that burden that you were carrying that you didn't realize you were carrying. You can feel that burden as it lifts off of you, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I could have been concentrating on this. I could have been concentrating on that, other things that make me happy, other things that I like to do. And instead, I've been concentrating on how do I get back at you? How do I make your life miserable? But now that I no longer concentrate on making you miserable, if you happy, if you miserable, fine. I don't care one way or the other. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm happy, that things that I do, that I'm not going to allow anybody else to hurt me the way that I allowed you to hurt.
Yep, absolutely. It's more about focusing more on you and taking all that energy that you were giving for hate, to hate someone, to consistently think about what they were doing and playing that situation over in your mind. You take all of that energy and then you just give it to self. And so instead of it being like negative and heavy, it turns into a lighter, freer energy that's just like love of self that pushes you forward faster in like a more elevated type of manner. And and I also think that's just one of those things that's going to come with time too. Like, you're not just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, That's what hate feel like. Now this is what love feels like. It comes with growth. It comes with like being open-minded. It comes with being open to learning. Like it's gonna happen, but you have to have that mindset, like what we talked about in the beginning, that you always gonna be open to growing and changing.
Right. And I agree with you on that because, when I was living on that hate that I'm talking about, I didn't realize I was living on hate. I was just, it was there, it was in my mind. It was, hey, how do I get even? And it wasn't until I stopped hating and that burden left me that I realized, wow, I was in a really bad place and didn't have any knowledge that I was in that bad of a place. But now that I know how to get out of that bad place, I'm not going to ever allow myself to get back in that bad place again because I know how I felt then. I see how I feel now.
Yep. And I think the thing is, the key is what you said. You don't know you're in that place because it's someone can give you great advice while you're in that place and you're not going to receive it because you have made a mental choice to stay focused on the thing that you hate. And then once you come out of it, like you may even say, oh, I wish somebody would have told me, I wish I had known. And several people could have told you, it could have been in your face. You just were not open enough to be able to receive it at that time.
Right. You're right.
Okay, so since I feel like, I feel like now, not I feel like, but I know and I can say for certainty that I am like a full grown adult. And when you're younger, you be like, oh, I can't wait to be an adult. And then when you're an adult, you don't really feel like you're an adult. You don't even call yourself that. It just does not feel like it. So as you get older, you just see yourself in life and you look back on your life. And sometimes I try to look back at myself and say, I did this and I'm proud of myself for doing this type of thing. So for me, like I may look back and I may say, oh, my daughter has graduated high school. I remember when she was younger and all the things that I went through and what I felt like, and as she got older, and just counting down to when she got ready to graduate high school and just being like, okay, Kristen, you know what? You felt like you didn't know how you were going to make it through it, but you did. That's something you can really be proud of yourself that you actually made it through it. What is something
Right.
that you feel like you are proud of yourself for doing?
Um, well, I guess there's a lot of things that I'm proud of, but probably one thing as far as just for self, I would say probably joining the military. I joined the Army National Guard. It was as a youth growing up. I guess I grew up watching a lot of war pictures and people serving the country, and it was something I thought maybe as an adult that I would want to do. So I didn't join the actual Army, but I joined the Army Guard, and yet we were activated. So I did serve as if I was, you know, in the military, full-time Army. I did serve in a war. So to me, just going, signing in, and saying, "Hey, I'm willing to put my life on the line for the rights of my family to be able to live in peace and in a country where they have a lot of rights." Um, it was kind of amazing to me because, I think a lot of people that had joined the unit, the National Guard, were thinking, hey, I'm joining the Guard. I can say I serve my country, but I ain't got to worry about war. So when we got activated, it amazed me to see the difference in the attitude that a lot of my fellow soldiers had because they really didn't want to go to war. I joined because I felt like if needed to go, I would go. If asked to go, I would go. And when I was asked, I was ready to go. So that made me very proud of myself because, hey, I'm looking at people that I was training under, that I worked with, that I thought were real gung ho soldiers until we actually got activated and had to go into that situation. So you never know. You always think you know a person, but you never know a person until you need them. So, that was one thing that I was very proud of myself because even though I didn't know how I was going to react, I was prepared in my mind, and I was actually prepared when I got the word. So I didn't change from that.
Okay. So when you joined the military, you said that your reasoning for joining was that you felt as though if needed be, you didn't mind serving your country. And you feel like other people did not necessarily have that realistic view when they joined the military. So when you joined, do you feel like it was a lot of people around your same age that joined, or do you feel like it was a smaller amount of people?
Yes, there were a lot of people where I joined, where I went. Yeah, a lot of people around my age. There were older people, a lot of older people, but there were a lot of people in my age group, or a few years older, a few years younger, later a few years younger. But when I first joined, most of them were just a little older or about my age.
Okay. And I don't know how much you can share or you're able to tell. So when you say you were activated, so for people that don't know, that mean that you actually was called to go like to war. So when
Right.
this a long time ago, people not a long time ago, but just for people that are younger that don't know, what was the name of the war that you went to?
I served in Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Okay. And so this was like 90s, where people, right, people actually went to, is it like Afghanistan?
Well, we went to Saudi, Iraq, Iran. Uh, so we went to several countries over there. It was mainly Iraq and Iran where we spent most of our time at.
Okay. And so while you over there, what I was trying to say was, do you have any stories that you could tell that is not like confidential? Any interesting stories?
Well, I guess one story was one of my best stories that I like, and I don't tell it to a lot of people. It took me a little while to actually tell it because it was like I said I had the mindset. Okay, I'm ready, I'm willing, and I had no problem going to war. If that's what was called to do, and I'll never forget. It's always to me it seemed like yesterday when we made it to Saudi Arabia and we got off the plane and we were still on the airport in the landing lanes for the planes, waiting to find out where we were actually going to go. It was late in the afternoon. All of a sudden, every light at the airport goes out. Alarm goes off. I see Patriots take off.
Wait, what's a patriot?
A Patriot is what we have, a missile that we have. We fires to explode, to blow up scuds, which are bigger missiles that are coming in my direction. So I'm my first day there. I haven't been there but an hour or so, not that long. And all of a sudden, I'm looking around and I can't see my hand in front of my face. Uh, I see these Patriots take off, and I know from my training, hey, I've got to get my chemical suit on because that means there's something on its way in my area. Maybe it has chemicals, maybe it don't. Maybe it's just a bomb that's gonna blow up. But my training was anytime alarm goes off, I prepare for chemical first, and then prepare for the bomb or explosion from the bomb. So there I was jumping into my chemical suit, put my chemical suit on as fast as I could. Uh, and while I'm doing that, all of a sudden I hear the Patriots blowing up the scud that was in coming into my direction, and it's like, wow, here I am. I said I wanted to do this, but do I really want to do this? Because hey, I'm here at the airport. I'm still looking at my airplane, and I'm thinking about the size of a Scud missile. So even though I had my gun, I had no ammo. And even if I had ammo, I would not be able to shoot and Scud and still live. So I'm like, what did I volunteer myself for? So to me, that was probably the most eye-opening day of the war because that was the day I said to myself, okay, I may not come back home. So I've got to be prepared to do whatever it takes to ensure that as many people survive or stay alive as long as they can. So I had to change my mindset. I had a mindset of, I'm going over here and I'll see how it is. But it wasn't until that Patriot went off and blowed up that scud that my mindset changed to, hey, I got to be prepared to die because there's some things I can't control. This is real. This is not looking at TV. This is not watching it on the news. This is reality. I can share others, but I don't know if you want them also.
Um, okay, but with that story, do you like do you think the other people that were in the unit with you, had that same realization at that same time, or do you think theirs were a little more extreme, or how do you think theirs compared to yours?
Well, I think initially before the lights went out, because like I said, when we first got off, a lot of the people would take their chemical suits and they put them in a pile. Now, I'm wise enough to know that hey, I'm in a strange country, and I've been trained. At any time, I may have to put my suit on, so I did not choose to put mine in the pile. I chose to carry mine and my weapon everywhere I went. So when the lights went out and you couldn't see in front of your face, and there I was putting my stuff on, I could hear them wrestling, trying to find their chemical suits to put on. So I don't think that mindset was where my mindset was at the time, but I'm pretty sure it changed, very shortly after that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it changed very shortly after that. Do you think you had any extreme situations like where people would, I mean, I'm sure most of y'all were men, so y'all probably didn't cry in public in front of other people. But do you feel like, or did you see any men like actually showing emotions, like physical emotions during that time or shortly afterwards?
Well, to answer that, what would be the only emotions that men actually showed was once we were told, "Hey, we are going to war. We're going to go over and cross the water." We had people crying, people saying they're crazy, people saying, "Hey, I can't leave. I'm not, I got a child. I got a child on the way." It was just amazing, the things that I'm crazy, stuff you see like on MASH. I don't know if people know what MASH is, but yeah, they have one fellow that likes to pretend he's crazy. But it's just the things that the people, were so, I was so surprised, a lot of the people who tried to find any excuse not to go. And there I was saying, hey, I'm ready to go. I don't mind going. This is what I signed up for. I sort of didn't, expect it, but this is what I signed up for. This is what I've been training for. This is what the government has been training me for. I have no problem with it, but it just amazed me that the mindset that the people that I thought would have a different mindset when they actually found out it was actually having to go. Now, once we got over there, we were all like family. I mean, when we first got there, it didn't matter black, white, whatever, male, female. You were a soldier, and we were together. I'm watching your back, you're watching my back. You know, even though from South, being from the South, we are, they say things are better, but they are not where they need to be. So, you know, initially during the war, yeah, we were all family. By the end of the war, we went back to the good old ways with the good old boys in that group and the rest of us in our group. So, the more things change, the more things stay the same. But yes, I guess I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you definitely answered my question. And so while you were talking, it led me to another question that, I feel like it's just reality. And so, although, like you said, we have moved forward in life and things have changed, are there any situations that you remember from when you were younger that were like clear displays of like what was norm, but was still, segregation from when you were younger, and that people just they don't understand how real it was. Not this, yeah, how real it was. Do you have like any situations from that?
Okay, and I'm gonna share this story so some people may, try to figure out how old I am when I tell this, but this is reality. And I live in a small town here in Mississippi. And when I was a child, you see this on TV where you have the white only rest bathrooms and the white only water fountains and things of that nature. But I actually went to restaurants where the whites could go in, the blacks had to go to the back. I actually went to dentist offices where the whites could go in the front, the blacks had to go around to the back. I actually went to movie theaters where the whites went in at the bottom and the blacks had to come on the outside, go to the front to buy the ticket, then go around and go up the stairs and sit in the balcony to watch the movie. So I have seen a lot of progress, but we still got a long way to go.
Right. I agree with that as well. I do think that there has been a lot of progress that has been made, and also think that it has to be taken into consideration that the progress that has been made through a filtered lens. And so you don't know what you're missing or what you're excluding if you're not diverse enough with your mentality, with understanding everything that it should include, with trying to make sure that everyone is equal. You know, for example, um, we now have automatic where you go into the bathroom and you can just put your hand under the sink and wash your
Right.
hands. And so the people that made those didn't take into consideration that there were people of different complexities within their skin color or different things that is within you. And so sometimes when they first came out, people of color would struggle with trying to get the water to come on. And so the people that created it did not realize at that time that they had a certain bias while making it. So sometimes we don't understand that we have a certain bias. And
Right.
so, you know, they, of course, the problem was fixed and all these different things, but that's, to me, is just an example of how sometimes you will have a bias and you don't realize that you have a bias. So from what you're saying, it's like, yeah, things have changed, but it's also from a perspective of that, you know, it's not necessarily what it was, but the lens filter may not necessarily be clear because of some bias. It's just, you know, people don't
Right.
realize they have intentionally or unintentionally. And so we're gonna end this with like one last question. And I just like to see what people say. So if you could define love, what would your definition of love be?
Uh, well, to me, the word love is very general word in that I could say I love you. It's not so much the word love, but it's how the person perceives the word. So I could say I love you. You may think I'm really saying I hate you. Or I could say I love you, and you may say, well, I guess you like me. Or I could just say I love you, and then you can say he loves me. Or I say I love you, and you can say why he really really loves me. So love is kind of a word that can be taken so many ways and is used so freely to mean so many things that a lot of times it loses its actual value because some people use it just to get what they want. Hey, I love you. If that means I'm gonna get to sleep with you, I'm gonna tell you I love you. Uh, if I say I love you, then you're not gonna punish me for doing wrong. But love has a different meaning. I think love is not the word, but the actions. So if I love you, I shouldn't have to tell you every day, I love you. I should be, you should be able to, for my actions, for my words, for my deeds, you should know that I love you. So we all, to me, that's what love really is. Love is not me telling you. Love is not me buying you gifts. Love is me actually showing you what love is to me.
Yep. And I had a conversation about this with someone else, and so I do agree with the aspect of that. I personally feel like, you know, if you love someone, if they know you love them, I just don't see the point. Me personally, I don't see the point of having to say it every single day if you know it. Like, you
Right.
already know it. What does me saying it today mean as opposed to me not saying it today? It does not mean that it's any less. And you should not think it's any less because I did not say it today or every single day. Like, the words should not be what you determine how I feel about you. But I also understand that there are some people that need certain things and you have to take that into consideration. But but to me, if you need to hear that every day, and if I don't say it, that means I don't love you, then I think there's a bigger issue, for one. I also think that love is, to me, love is an energy. And I think that, like, you know, once you love someone, you love them, and it's not necessarily contained within, I love you because you take my car to get an oil change. I love you because you wash my clothes. Like, I think love means that I just love you just because. You don't have to do anything for me. I just love you. It's just an energy and it's not based on any actions. Um,
Right.
and I think the actions sometimes mean the actions turn into expectations, and that's how a lot of times people get confused with how a person feels about them and if a person actually loves them. Yeah, they can love you, but these expectations that you have are different than the love for me. Do you think they're different, or do they go hand in hand?
It's different. That's what I was really trying to say. It just depends on the person that's saying it, the person that they are saying it to, what they actually hear and what's actually said. It's just it's a lot of variables that goes into what love is. But I do love you.
And I do love you too. Thank you. Um, And I love this conversation that we just had. I think it was a very good conversation. Me and you have a lot of good conversations. Sometimes we don't agree, and maybe we need to,
Right.
have one of those conversations on here where we don't agree, because I think it's interesting.
Exactly.
When I was younger, I feel like I was not as open and able to have those conversations with you. But
Right.
as you said in the beginning, as we all change in life, life will change us. That's one thing that's consistent, that life is going to change you. So as it changed, we both have been able to get to a better point where we can talk and we don't have to agree, but we can still love each other. We're still going to respect each other, and we're going to be able to hear each other out, and things are going to be okay afterwards. And I feel like a lot of people don't look at it like that. It's okay, like the other person doesn't have to agree with you. They don't have
Right.
to, and you can
Exactly.
still respect them.
Yes. I have that argument all the time.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that we can have those conversations, and we will continue to have many more conversations. But for today, that's going to be it. And thank you so much for watching today's Crystal's Life.
Goodbye.